Today, we're going to dive into this really powerful metaphor for what it means to truly change. It's all about the journey from being a proud peacock to becoming a resurrected phoenix. It's a story for anyone who's ever felt like their world was falling apart and had to figure out a completely new way to live. So let's just start with the big question right up front. When does a proud peacock, that symbol of self-made success and having it all together, when does it ever want to become a phoenix? Well, the short answer is pretty much never. I mean, why would it, when everything is going exactly according to plan?
To really get this journey, we have to first understand what the peacock is all about. And we're not just talking about a bird here. This represents a whole mindset, a stage of life where you rely on yourself for everything.
Yeah, this peacock stage is all about building what our source calls the small order. It's this little world we create for ourselves, right? A world built on our own intelligence, our own talent, and our ability to control things. It's kind of like a personal kingdom where the self is king and everything feels safe and secure because, hey, we built it.
But what happens when that carefully built world starts to crack? Well, that brings us to the big turning point in the story, the moment of total failure, the end of the line for the peacock's way of doing things.
And this fall can be incredibly fast and just brutal. All of a sudden, the very things that made the peacock feel like a peacock, those beautiful feathers, that status, that image, they just start to fall away. The very foundation of its security, all that money it piled up, suddenly proves to be completely useless when a real-life crisis hits. And here's the real gut punch. The peacock's own talent, that wit and control it depended on for everything, is powerless to save the things that actually matter most. That small order that the self built gets completely wrecked by things the self just can't control.
And this is where the story gets really personal. Maybe this all sounds a little familiar. Our source material asks a super direct question. Are you at this point, right now, hitting rock bottom? If you are, it has a surprising message for you. Congratulations. Because you haven't reached a dead end. You've just found an entrance. You've arrived at what's called the only narrow gate. See, it's not a wall, it's a doorway, but it's a very, very specific and kind of demanding path forward.
So what is this narrow gate exactly? Well, think of it as the required path to transformation. But here's the catch, the real challenge. The passage is too narrow for the peacock's ego, its public image, and that long list of achievements. All that stuff, it just won't fit through. This whole idea is rooted in this biblical instruction: strive to enter through the narrow gate. And that word strive is key. This isn't something you just drift into passively. It's an active, difficult choice to push forward through a path that feels like it's going to squeeze the life out of you.
Which leads us to the most radical and central point of this whole journey. To get through that gate, the peacock, as it is, has to die. So what does this death really mean? Obviously, it's not a physical thing. It's the total surrender of everything that propped up that old self. Your ego, your public image, and all the achievements you use to tell yourself and everyone else who you are. All those proud feathers have got to be left at the door.
So how do we define this kind of death? The source points directly to a verse from Galatians. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live. This is the absolute heart of it. The I that has to die is the peacock, that self-reliant I who built that small order. It's a death that clears the way for a totally new kind of life to begin. And right from that death, something incredible emerges. The end of the peacock is not the end of the story. No way. It's the beginning of the phoenix.
This is where your whole perspective on the pain gets flipped on its head. The stripping of the feathers, the failure, getting squeezed through that narrow gate, it all feels like a punishment. But the argument here is that it's the exact opposite. It's grace. It's the very gift that sets you free from the prison you built for yourself.
It's the core logic of this entire transformation. It's really simple. You can't have a resurrection unless there's a death first. The new life of the phoenix, a life that isn't dependent on that fragile, small order, can only rise from the ashes of that old, self-reliant peacock.
And that brings us to the bottom line of this whole thing. A powerful little summary of this paradox. The peacock must die so the phoenix can rise. The death isn't a tragedy, it's a requirement. One has to end for the other to even begin. So, what are we supposed to do with all this? The source gives this incredible piece of encouragement.
Don't run from your moments of failure and brokenness. Actually, embrace them, because that pain, that collapse of the old you, is the exact place where your new strength, where your wings begin to grow.
And so we'll just leave you with this question. This isn't just some abstract metaphor. It's an invitation for you. Look at your own life, your own struggles, your own narrow gates. From which piece of your brokenness are your wings now growing?